How would you start off by stating your name and
Steve Hundersmarck,
and you
PhD,
perfect.
pilot IMD.
So the first question is going to be how prevalent is the blue coat of silence in this police subculture?
I don't think it is as strong as what it once was. I think that it's still pretty strong, but with certain groups of people.
Okay.
So for instance, in any organization, you have those that'll do the right thing. You have those that are somewhat in the middle that can be pulled one way or another. And you have a small subset of those that'll do the wrong thing, or for policing for the wrong reasons. So it's that third type that you have to be careful of, that are always trying to lure you in some way, blue code of conduct. Hey, you didn't see this, or help me out with this, or it's okay to do that. You always will have a small group of people that are like that. And their pull is particularly strong because they're trying to lure you in. So, that's the part of the population that you have to be careful of. And then there's the middle group, those people that are drawn into that. So I think for police officers now, it's not as prevalent as it was before, but there's still, force there that they have to be careful of.
And what do you think is the influence that makes these officers, the third group that you're talking about, that way?
Well, I think some are in policing for the wrong reasons. They're
Okay.
not there really to help people or communicate. They're there because of the control part of it.
Gotcha.
Is attractive to them. There are those individuals also that don't have strong personalities that will, don't look at policing and ethics as a process. They look at the end product. So, in other words, it's okay to violate somebody's rights if they're a drug dealer because they need to be off the street, as opposed to looking at it saying, hey, the process is wrong. If I do something wrong, it doesn't make it right. So that's, when you talk about ethics and you talk about the code of silence and such, that's what's so important about knowing. It's the process. It's the most important to police officers.
Right. So did any of the departments that you worked at, did they have ethical training in place?
Not per se. We didn't have anything where we discussed ethics or anything along those lines. It would be mentioned, as a part of other training and such. Legal update or something, but we never addressed it, head on. You either were or you weren't.
Okay. Do you think it's important for departments to have ethical training?
Well, I do think it's important, but I think it's equally as important that police departments thoroughly look at ethics in their policies, the things that they do and their expectations for police officers as well. You can talk about ethics all you want and have training on ethics. You can do the dog and pony show, but if your police department hasn't written it into their policies and they're not ensuring that officers are ethical, if they're allowing them to do certain things, that training isn't going to do anybody any good. So it's an A to Z proposition. You have to train them, but you also have to reflect that in the way in which you run your police department through your policies and your supervision and such.
Got it. So you would see it more of an administrative thing rather than having like training sessions and things on it.
Well, it's a whole process. It's kind of like a use of force training. The training is very important, but you have to also supervise that training, use of force training, that officers are carrying the right weapons, that they're doing the right things, that they're writing this in their reports. So same thing with ethics and the way that they deal with people. You have to make sure that if you have an officer that's out there swearing at people or abusive in some way, that person is disciplined. So you got to walk the talk and talk the walk.
All right, I understand. So for a department that doesn't have ethical training, and also your departments, are there any suggestions that you would give as to any forms of training that they could do possibly? Or more so of just like the policies that you were talking about rather than actual training?
Well, the training is important as well so that you can emphasize the importance of your policies in the way that you want to deal with people. A vast majority of the complaints that I took when I was a supervisor was the way in which people handled people, were rude to them or what have you. So again, they have to coexist together. So it is something like you have training for policies, you have expectations of proper behavior for your officers, you give them the training, and again, it's in policy and it's supervised as well. So they have to coexist together.
I appreciate your time.
No problem.